The transport ship landed on Station Orion 7 with a loud hiss. Steam rose from the metal floor as the doors opened slowly. Stood waiting with her hands folded in front of her. She had read the files 3 times already. 12 cubs, all orphans, all marked as failures by the Empire. She watched as the guards walked down the ramp first. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were black and showed no warmth. Behind them came the cubs. Felt her heart tighten. The cubs walked in a single line. They were small, barely reaching waist. Their gray skin was dull, not shiny like the adult. Some had bruises. All of them kept their heads down. Their ears were flat against their skulls, a sign of fear that had learned from her studies. One cub tripped on the ramp. He fell hard on his knees, moved forward to help, but a guard was faster. The guard grabbed the cub by his arm and pulled him up roughly. "Stand properly," the guard said in a cold voice. The cub did not cry. He did not make any sound. He just stood there with empty eyes. Clenched her fists but said nothing, not yet. The lead guard walked to and looked down at her. Were much taller than humans. This one had scars on his face and a metal badge on his chest. "You are the human trainer?" he asked. "Yes, my name is." "These cubs are waste. They failed every test. They are too weak for military service, too stupid for technical work. The Empire was going to dispose of them." Kept her face calm even though her stomach turned at his words. Dispose, like they were broken machines. "But some commanders heard that humans have strange training methods," the guard continued. "They want to see if you can make something useful out of this garbage." "They are not garbage," said quietly. The guard laughed. It was not a kind sound. "You will learn, human. These cubs are defective. They cry during basic exercises. They cannot follow simple orders. They are afraid of everything." "I understand." "You have 6 months. If they show no improvement, they will be disposed of." The guard turned and walked back to his ship. The other guards followed. Stood alone with 12 small cubs on the empty landing platform. For a long moment, nobody moved. The cubs stood frozen in their line. They did not look at each other. They just stared at the ground. Took a slow breath. She had trained difficult students before. She had worked with troubled children on Earth. But this was different. These were not human children. They were aliens from a culture built on strength and obedience. A culture that threw away anyone who showed weakness. She walked closer to the cubs. They flinched. All 12 of them flinched at the same time, like they expected her to hit them. Stopped walking. She slowly lowered herself to her knees so she was at their eye level. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is, I am going to be your teacher." No response. The cubs did not move. "Can you tell me your names?" Silence. Noticed that the smallest cub in the line was shaking. His whole body trembled like a leaf in wind. She could see old scars on his arms. "It is okay," said. "You do not have to talk right now. Let us go inside first. Are you hungry?" One cub's ear twitched at the word hungry. Just a tiny movement, but saw it. "Follow me," she said. "I will show you where you will live." She stood up slowly and began walking toward the station building. For several seconds, she heard nothing behind her. Then came the soft sound of small feet on metal. The cubs were following. The living area had prepared was different from standard facilities. There were no bare metal floors or harsh lights. Instead, there were soft mats on the floor and warm yellow lights. There were blankets folded on sleeping platforms. There was a table with food already prepared. The cubs stopped at the doorway. They looked at the room with wide eyes. "This is where you will sleep," said. "You can choose any bed you want." The cubs did not move. Understood. In training centers, cubs were assigned positions. They were not allowed to choose anything. Choice was a concept they did not understand. "Come," she said. She walked to the table and sat down. "Sit with me, let us eat." Slowly, very slowly, the cubs moved into the room. They sat on the floor around the table, keeping as much distance from as possible. Their eyes kept moving to the door, like they were planning escape routes. Put food on a plate and pushed it toward the nearest cub. Eat, please. The cub looked at the food. Then he looked at. His eyes were full of confusion and fear. Is it not allowed? He whispered. His voice was rough, like he had not used it in a long time. It is allowed, said. I am telling you to eat. This food is for you. The cub reached out with a shaking hand. He took a small piece of food and put it in his mouth. He chewed quickly, like he expected someone to take it away. Passed food to the other cubs. One by one they began to eat. They ate fast and desperate. Some of them stuffed food in their mouths so fast they almost choked. These children were starving, not just for food but for everything, for safety, for kindness, for someone to see them as more than failures. After the meal, showed them the beds again. You can sleep now if you are tired. The cubs looked at the soft beds with the warm blankets, but they did not move toward them. Instead, they gathered in a corner of the room and lay down on the hard floor, pressed close together for warmth. Did not force them to use the beds. She understood. The beds were too strange, too soft. The cubs did not trust comfort because comfort had never been real for them. Good night, she said softly. I will see you in the morning. She turned off the main lights but left a small lamp glowing. As she walked to the door, she heard a sound behind her, a small, quiet sound. Crying. One of the cubs was crying, trying hard to be silent. Knew that in culture, crying was punished severely. The cub was probably waiting for pain that would not come. Did not turn around. She did not want to embarrass the cub. She just stood at the door and spoke softly. It is okay to cry here. No one will hurt you for crying, I promise. Then she left and closed the door gently behind her. In her own room, sat at her desk and opened her notebook. She had to make a plan. 6 months was not much time to undo years of abuse and neglect, but she had to try. Those 12 small lives depended on her. She wrote the first note in her book, Day 1. The cubs are afraid of everything. They expect pain. They do not know kindness. Tomorrow we will begin. She put down her pen and looked at the wall. Somewhere in this station, 12 broken cubs were sleeping on a cold floor because they did not know how to accept warmth. Made a silent promise to them. She would teach them not just skills or knowledge. She would teach them that they mattered, that they were worth saving. Even if the whole empire called them garbage, would show them their true value. She would start tomorrow. The morning came with soft light through the windows. Had programmed the station lights to mimic a gentle sunrise instead of the harsh white flash that facilities used to wake their trainees. She walked to the cubs' room and opened the door quietly. They were still in the corner, still pressed together on the hard floor, but something was different. They were awake and watching her. 12 pairs of dark eyes followed her every movement. Good morning, said with a small smile. Did you sleep well? No answer. She did not expect one. Today we will start our training, she said. But first, breakfast. She led them to the eating area. This time, the cubs moved a little faster. They remembered the food from last night. They sat at the table without being told, though they still kept distance from. As they ate, studied each cub carefully. She needed to learn them. Their faces, their behaviors, their fears. The files had given them numbers, not names. Cub 0, 1 through Cub 12, but refused to use numbers. I want to learn your names, she said. Real names. What did your parents call you? The cubs stopped eating. Fear crossed their faces. The smallest cub, the one who had been shaking yesterday, spoke first. His voice was barely a whisper. We do not have names. Names are for useful, we are failures. Felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. Everyone deserves a name. Did no one ever call you anything? A female cub with a scar on her cheek spoke. My mother called me Roka, before she died. Roka repeated, "That is a beautiful name. I will call you Roka." Something changed in the cub's eyes. Just a tiny spark, but it was there. One by one, the cubs shared the names their parents had once used. Some remembered clearly. Others had to think hard, reaching back into painful memories. The smallest cub said his mother had called him Vel. Another was named. There was Dorn and others. Wrote each name in her notebook. She said each name out loud, making sure she pronounced them correctly. The cubs watched her with a strange expression, confusion mixed with something else. Hope, maybe, or disbelief. "Good," said when she had all 12 names. "Now I know who you are. Now we can begin." She took them to the training room. It was a large open space with soft mats on the floor. No weapons, no harsh equipment, just open space and sunlight. The cubs stood stiffly in a line, waiting for orders. Their bodies were tense, ready for pain. "Today," said, "we will learn to run." The cubs looked confused. Running was a basic skill. All cubs learned to run from the time they could walk. "But we know how to run," Dorn said. He was one of the older cubs with broader shoulders than the others. "You know how to run away from punishment," said. "You know how to run from fear. Today, you will learn to run for fun." The cubs stared at her like she had spoken in a foreign language. Smiled and walked to one end of the room. "Watch me." She began to jog slowly across the mat, not running from anything, not running toward anything, just moving her body because it felt good. "Now you try," she said. "Run with me. No speed tests, no punishment for being slow, just run because your body can." The cubs hesitated. Then Roka took a step forward. She began to jog, her movements stiff and uncertain. The others followed, one by one. They ran in circles around the room. At first, they kept looking at, waiting for her to shout or punish them. But she just ran beside them, her breath steady and calm. After a few minutes, something strange happened. Vel, the smallest cub, started to run a little faster, not because he was told to, just because he wanted to. Then did the same. Soon they were all running at different speeds, no longer in a perfect line. Did not correct them. She let them find their own pace. After the run, they sat in a circle on the soft mats. The cubs were breathing hard, but their eyes were different, less dead, more alive. "How did that feel?" asked. Silence. Then a thin female cub with long ears spoke. "It felt strange. Nobody watched us. Nobody counted our steps." "Did you like it?" Thought for a long moment. "I do not know. I have never felt this before." Nodded. This was a start. The days passed slowly. Did not push the cubs into difficult exercises. She started with simple things. Running, stretching, playing with soft balls, activities that human children did for fun but that cubs had never experienced. The cubs struggled with the concept of play. They kept waiting for the real training to begin. The pain, the punishment. When it did not come, they became confused. On the 5th day, observers arrived at the station. 2 officials in dark uniforms with hard faces. They had come to inspect progress. Met them at the door. "Welcome, the cubs are in morning exercise." The officials followed her to the training room. When they saw what was happening inside, their faces twisted with disgust. The cubs were playing a game. They were tossing soft balls to each other, trying to catch them without dropping. Vel had just caught one and was holding it up with pride. Roka was laughing, actually laughing. "What is this?" one official demanded. "This is not training, this is waste of time." "The cubs are learning coordination and teamwork," said calmly. "They are playing like infants. Where are the discipline rods? Where are the punishment stations?" "I do not use those methods." The official stepped closer too. He was much taller than her and he clearly meant to intimidate. "Human, these cubs must become soldiers. Your soft games will not create warriors." "Give me time," said. She did not step back. 6 months, that was the agreement. "We will be watching." the official said coldly. If these cubs show no real progress, you will share their fate. The officials left. Their words hung in the air like poison. That night sat with the cubs at dinner. They had heard the officials. They knew what had been said. They will kill us, Dorn said quietly, and they will kill you too. No one is going to die, said firmly. Not while I am here. Why do you care? Roka asked. Her eyes were wet with tears she was trying to hide. We are nothing. We are failures. Why does a human care about garbage? Put down her food and looked at each cub. You are not garbage. You are children. You have survived things that would break most adults. That makes you strong, not weak. The Empire says we are weak, Vel whispered. The Empire is wrong. His voice was hard now, full of conviction. Strength is not just about muscles and fighting. Strength is about surviving. It is about getting up after you fall. It is about hopping when hope seems impossible. You have all of that strength inside you. The cubs were silent. They did not believe her. Not yet. Years of abuse had taught them that they were worthless. One human's words could not erase that overnight. But saw something in their eyes. A tiny crack in the wall they had built around their hearts. A small opening where her words could enter. Tomorrow, she said, we will train again, and every day after that. I will teach you everything I know. Not because the Empire wants me to, because you deserve it. She stood and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back one more time. Good night, Roka, good night, Vel, good night, Dorn, she said each name clearly. Sleep well. The cubs watched her go. Then, for the first time, they did not all sleep on the floor. Vel walked to one of the soft beds. He touched the blanket carefully. Then he climbed in and pulled it over himself. One by one, the other cubs did the same. In her room, added a new note to her book, Day 5. Cubs used beds tonight. Progress is small but real. The officials threatened us. We will prove them wrong. Outside the window, stars filled the dark sky. Somewhere in the universe, the Empire was waiting to judge these 12 children. Would make sure they passed, whatever it took. 2 months had passed since the cubs arrived at Station Orion 7, stood at the window of the training room and watched them practice. They were doing stretching exercises, moving together in smooth motions. Their bodies had changed. They stood taller now. Their skin had become shinier, healthier. They no longer looked like starving shadows. But the biggest change was in their eyes. Roka finished her stretches and jogged over too. Did I do it right? She asked. Perfect form, said. You are getting stronger every day. Roka smiled. An actual smile. 2 months ago, this cub did not know how to smile. Now her face could light up the whole room. Can we do the team exercise today? Roka asked. The one where we work together to solve the puzzle. Yes, after lunch. Roka ran back to the others to share the news. Heard excited whispers spreading through the group. The cubs loved the puzzle exercises. They had discovered that working together was more effective than working alone. This was a lesson that military training never taught. During lunch, Vel sat next to. The smallest cub had grown a few inches in the past weeks. Proper food and rest had done wonders for his body, but more importantly, he had started talking. At first just single words, now full sentences. He said quietly, "Can I ask you something?" Of course. Why do humans touch each other so much? Paused. She had noticed the cubs watching her carefully whenever she patted someone's shoulder or gave a high five after good training. What do you mean? She asked. You touch us when we do well. You put your hand on our heads. You squeeze our shoulders. Do not do this. How does it make you feel when I touch you? Vel thought about this for a long time. Strange, but good strange, like something warm inside. Humans show care through touch, explained. When I pat your head, I am saying that I am proud of you. When I squeeze your shoulder, I am saying that I am here for you. Can I try? Vel asked. Try what? Instead of answering, Vel reached out and awkwardly patted his arm. His small hand was gentle and uncertain. Felt tears form in her eyes, but she blinked them away. That was very good, Vel, thank you. Vel's face changed. A look of wonder spread across his features. I did something good. You did something wonderful. After lunch, the Cubs gathered in the training room for the team exercise, had built a complex obstacle course. The goal was not to finish fast. The goal was to help each other through. Remember, said, no one succeeds alone. If one of you falls, the others help. If one of you is stuck, the others find solutions. Ready? The Cubs nodded. They had been practicing this for weeks. Begin. They moved into the course. Dorn, the strongest, went first. He climbed over the tall wall and reached back to pull up after him, helped through a narrow tunnel. When Vel struggled with a balance beam, Roka walked beside him, holding his hand until he found his footing. Watched with pride. These Cubs had learned to trust each other. They had learned to rely on each other. In culture, this was seen as weakness. Cubs were taught to compete, not cooperate, but had shown them a different way. They finished the course together, all 12 crossing the finish line at the same moment. Excellent, said, you are becoming a real team. The Cubs gathered around her, their faces glowing with happiness. Roka spoke for the group. We like being a team. It feels safe. That is because you protect each other now. You are not alone anymore. That evening, something unexpected happened. Was in her room reviewing training notes when she heard a knock on her door. She opened it to find Vel standing there, holding something in his small hands. What is it, Vel? He held up a small object. It was a piece of wire bent into the shape of a star. The Cubs had found old materials in the storage room and had taught them to make simple crafts for fine motor practice. I made this for you, Vel said. His voice was shy but steady. You said humans give gifts to people they care about. I care about you, so I made you a gift. Knelt down and took the wire star carefully. It was rough and imperfect, but it was the most beautiful thing she had ever received. Vel, she whispered, this is perfect, I will keep it forever. She pulled him into a gentle hug. He stiffened at first, not used to the contact. Then slowly, very slowly, his small arms wrapped around her neck. When she released him, his eyes were wet. Why am I leaking? He asked, confused. Those are tears of happiness, said. Sometimes when we feel very strong emotions, our eyes leak water. It is normal. I thought tears were only from pain. No, Vel, tears can also come from joy. He touched his own face, feeling the wetness. I have never had happy tears before. You will have many more, promised. I will make sure of it. The next week brought another inspection from officials. This time, a high-ranking commander came personally. His name was, and he was one of the most powerful figures in the Empire's military. Met him at the landing platform. Commander was enormous, even for a. His forearms were thick with muscle, and his face was covered in battle scars. He looked at like she was an insect. I have heard strange reports about this facility, said. Cubs playing games. No discipline, no punishment systems. I came to see this human foolishness myself. Would you like to observe our training session? Asked calmly. I would like to see if you have wasted the Empire's time. She led him to the training room where the Cubs were waiting. They stood in formation, but not the stiff, fearful formation of 2 months ago. They stood together, close and comfortable. Cubs called out, we will show Commander what you have learned. Team exercise, formation 3. The Cubs moved instantly. They split into groups of 4 and began the complex coordination drill had designed. They climbed, jumped, rolled, and supported each other through obstacles. Their movements were smooth and confident. When one stumbled, another was there to catch them. When one hesitated, another encouraged them. Commander watched with narrowing eyes. He said nothing. After the exercise, the Cubs lined up again. They were breathing hard, but their eyes were bright. Call their names, commanded suddenly. understood what he was testing. In training, cubs responded to numbers and harsh commands. Names were personal, weak. Roka called. Roka stepped forward. She stood tall, her chin raised. Vel. Vel moved beside Roka. He did not shake. He did not tremble. He met the commander's eyes without flinching. One by one called each name. 12 cubs stood before the commander. They were not cowering. They were not afraid. They looked like young warriors ready to face the universe. These cubs were garbage when they arrived, said slowly. Now they move like soldiers. They move like a team, corrected. Same thing. No, Commander. A soldier follows orders, a team protects each other. There is a difference. Stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked at the cubs again. Something in his expression shifted, though could not read what it meant. You have 2 more months, he said finally. At the end of that time, these cubs will face the official evaluation. If they pass, they live. If they fail, they are disposed of, as are you. He turned and walked away without another word. After he was gone, the cubs rushed to. Roka grabbed her hand. Did we do well? Was he pleased? You did wonderfully, said. I am so proud of all of you. But we might still die, Dorn said quietly, at the evaluation. Knelt down so she was at eye level with all of them. Listen to me. You are not going to die, none of you. I will not let that happen. How can you stop the Empire? Asked. By making sure you pass, and you will pass. Do you know why? The cubs shook their heads. Because you have something that other soldiers do not have. You have each other, you have trust, you have love, placed her hand over her heart. You have me. Vel stepped forward and hugged her. Then Roka joined. Then all 12 cubs surrounded her in a group embrace, holding each other and their human trainer like they would never let go. In her room that night, added to her notes, Day 62. Commander visited. He saw strength in the cubs. The evaluation is in 2 months. We will be ready. We have to be. She looked at the wire star that Vel had made. She had hung it above her desk where she could see it every day. These cubs had trusted her with their lives. She would not fail them. The day of the evaluation arrived with cold silence. Woke before the artificial sunrise and sat in the dark of her room. Today would decide everything. 12 young lives. Her own life. 6 months of work would be judged in a few hours. She dressed in her training uniform and walked to the cubs' room. They were already awake, sitting together on the floor in a circle. They had been talking quietly, but stopped when she entered. Could you not sleep? Asked. Roka shook her head. We are scared. Sat down with them, joining their circle. I am scared too. The cubs looked surprised. They had never heard their trainer admit fear before. Humans get scared? Asked. All living things get scared, said. Fear is not weakness. Fear means you understand that something important is happening. The key is what you do with your fear. What do you do with yours? Vel asked quietly. Thought for a moment. I use it as fuel. Fear gives me energy to fight harder, to think clearer. Fear reminds me what matters. What matters today? Dorn asked. All of you looked at each cub, meeting their eyes one by one. You matter, not the Empire's opinion, not what the evaluators think. You, each of you has value that no test can measure. Who rarely spoke, raised her hand. But if we fail the test, we die. Then we do not fail, said firmly. But even if something goes wrong, even if the worst happens, I want you to know something. These past 6 months have been the greatest honor of my life. Training you, knowing you, watching you grow. You have taught me as much as I have taught you. His eyes filled with tears. We taught you. Yes, you taught me that strength comes in many forms. You taught me that broken things can heal. You taught me that the universe is full of cruelty but also full of hope. Smiled. You are my hope. The cubs moved closer to her. Without words, they formed a group embrace, holding each other tight. Whatever happens today, whispered, we face it together. The evaluation was held in the main arena of the station. It was a huge space with metal walls and bright lights. Officials filled the observation platforms above. Commander sat in the center, his four arms folded across his chest. Led her cubs into the arena. They walked in formation, but it was not the stiff march of frightened soldiers. They moved together like a pack, close and connected. Their eyes were forward, their backs straight. The evaluator was a thin with cold yellow eyes. He held a data pad and spoke without warmth. These 12 cubs will complete 3 trials: physical combat, strategic problem-solving, stress endurance. Failure in any trial means disposal. Felt anger burn in her chest at the word disposal, but she kept her face calm. Cubs, take your positions for Trial 1, the evaluator commanded. The cubs spread out across the arena. Trial 1 was physical combat against training drones. The drones were machines designed to test fighting ability. They would attack until either they were defeated or the cubs fell. Had trained her cubs for this, but not in the traditional way. Instead of teaching them to fight alone, she had taught them to fight together. Begin, the evaluator called. Drones descended from the ceiling. 6 metal machines with spinning weapons and armor plating. Standard training used 1 drone per cub. This was testing them with only half that number because they expected the weak cubs to share. But cubs did not see this as a disadvantage. Formation Delta, Roka called out. The cubs moved instantly, organizing into groups of 4 around each pair of drones. They did not fight as individuals. They fought as units. When a drone attacked Vel, Dorn blocked while struck from behind. When was pushed back, and Roka flanked the enemy and brought it down together. One by one, the drones fell. The cubs did not escape without injury. Dorn had a cut on his arm, was limping, but they were all still standing when the last drone hit the ground. The evaluator checked his data pad. His expression did not change. Trial 1 complete. Proceed to Trial 2. Trial 2 was strategic problem-solving. A complex puzzle appeared on the arena floor. The cubs had to navigate through a maze of moving platforms, locked doors, and hidden traps. They had 10 minutes to reach the center. Cubs usually rushed into these challenges alone, competing to reach the goal first. Cubs did something different. Wait, Roka said, stopping the group at the entrance. We need a plan. They huddled together, studying the maze. Noticed that the moving platforms followed a pattern. Vel spotted a shortcut through a ventilation shaft. Dorn found a way to disable the main trap. We go together, Roka decided. No one left behind. They entered the maze as one. When they reached the moving platforms, they helped each other across, forming chains to catch anyone who stumbled. When they hit a locked door, 3 of them worked on different parts of the lock while others watched for dangers. When Vel found the shortcut, they all followed him through. They reached the center with 2 minutes to spare, all 12 cubs together. Commander leaned forward in his seat. His expression had changed. He was no longer looking at the cubs with disgust. He was looking at them with something else. Interest, perhaps, or confusion. Trial 2 complete, the evaluator announced. Proceed to Trial 3. Trial 3 was stress endurance. This was the test that had broken these cubs before. In stress endurance, evaluators created situations designed to cause fear and panic. Loud noises, flashing lights, simulated threats. The cubs were supposed to maintain composure and follow orders despite the chaos. In the past, these 12 cubs had failed this trial every time. They would cry, they would freeze, they would collapse. But that was before. Begin, the evaluator said. The arena exploded with chaos. Sirens screamed. Red lights flashed. The floor began to shake. Holographic images of fire and danger appeared everywhere. The cubs flinched. Some of them started to tremble. Old fears rose up inside them like dark waves. Then's voice cut through the noise. Remember who you are. Her voice was strong and clear despite the chaos. She stood at the edge of the arena, her eyes locked on her cubs. "Roka, you are brave." Roka straightened her back, her trembling stopped. "Vel, you are strong." Vel lifted his chin. The fear in his eyes turned to determination. Dorn called each name, each one a weapon against the fear. "You are not alone, you have each other. You have always had each other." The cubs began to move together. They formed a circle in the center of the arena, backs facing inward, protecting each other from every direction. The chaos continued around them, but they stood firm. The evaluator increased the intensity. The noise grew louder. The lights flashed faster. Holographic monsters appeared, roaring and clawing. The cubs did not break. Vel started to sing. It was a simple melody that had taught them, a human song about courage and hope. One by one, the other cubs joined in. Their voices were not strong, but they were together. They sang through the final minutes of Trial 3. They held their formation. They did not cry. They did not collapse. When the chaos ended, 12 cubs stood in the center of the arena. They were tired. Some were crying, but they were standing. And they were smiling. The evaluator studied his data pad for a long time. Then he looked up at Commander. "All 3 trials completed successfully," he said. There was surprise in his voice. "The cubs pass." Silence filled the arena. Then the cubs erupted in cheers. They hugged each other, jumping and laughing and crying all at once. Roka broke from the group and ran too, throwing her arms around the human trainer. "We did it, we passed." Held her tight, tears streaming down her face. "You did it, all of you. You were magnificent." The other cubs surrounded them, forming one massive embrace. Human and together, crying happy tears and laughing with relief. High above, Commander watched the celebration. His expression was unreadable, but he did not look away. These cubs who were supposed to be garbage, these failures who were meant to be disposed of, they had just passed the evaluation that full military trainees struggled with. And they had done it together. Stood and left the observation platform without a word. He had much to think about. These human training methods were strange, unprecedented, possibly dangerous to the Empire's way of thinking. But they worked. And that was something could not ignore. In the arena below, the celebration continued. 12 cubs who once cried during training were now crying tears of joy. A human woman stood among them, part of their family, holding them like they were the most precious treasures in the universe. Because to her they were. 3 days after the evaluation, a message arrived at Station Orion 7. Commander was coming for a private meeting. No officials, no evaluators, just the commander and. Read the message twice. She did not know what to expect. The cubs had passed. Their lives were safe. But in culture, nothing was ever simple. She told the cubs to continue their morning exercises while she met with the commander. They protested. They wanted to stay with her, but assured them everything would be fine. "Trust me," she said, "I will be back soon." She met Commander in the station's meeting room. He stood by the window looking out at the stars. His 4 arms were relaxed at his sides. Without his military escort, he seemed different somehow, less threatening, more thoughtful. Commander greeted him. "You wish to see me?" Did not turn from the window. "I have served the Empire for over 60 cycles. I have trained thousands of soldiers. I have commanded fleets. I have conquered worlds. Waited. Never in all those cycles have I seen what I saw 3 days ago." Now he turned to face her. "Those cubs were broken. I saw the reports. They could not complete basic training. They cried at loud noises. They failed every evaluation for 3 cycles before being sent to you." "They were not broken," said. "They were hurt. There is a difference." I did not believe there was a difference until I watched them in that arena. His voice was heavy with something could not identify. They worked as one mind. They protected each other without hesitation. When the stress test began, I expected them to collapse like before. Instead, they sang. I taught them that song. Why? Because music helps humans manage fear. I thought it might help them too. Was silent for a long moment. You used no discipline rods, no punishment systems, no isolation chambers. These are the foundations of training. Those methods do not build strength, said. They build fear. Fear makes soldiers who follow orders, but it also makes soldiers who break under pressure. Real strength comes from trust, from connection, from knowing that others believe in you. This is human philosophy. This is truth in any species. Moved away from the window and sat down at the meeting table. He gestured for her to sit across from him. She did, keeping her posture calm and confident. The Empire has been watching your progress, said. Some officials wanted to shut down your program after the first inspection. They called your methods weak, dangerous, a threat to our culture. What stopped them? I did. His dark eyes met hers. I ordered them to wait. I wanted to see what your strange training would produce. Felt surprise but hid it. Why would you protect us? Because I have eyes, human. I can see what is happening to our cubs across the Empire. We train them with pain and fear, and they become soldiers who fight alone and die alone. Our desertion rates increase every cycle. Our military units lack cohesion. We win battles through numbers and weapons, not through the strength of our people. He leaned forward. But your 12 cubs fought together like they shared one heart. They trusted each other completely. They were not afraid to show weakness because they knew their teammates would protect them. That is what I taught them. How? His voice was almost pleading. How does a human know how to fix what the entire Empire cannot? Thought carefully before answering. I did not fix them, Commander. I just loved them. Stared at her. Love. Yes, I saw each cub as a person worthy of care. I learned their names. I celebrated their successes, no matter how small. I comforted them when they failed. I showed them that their value does not depend on their usefulness to the Empire. This is against everything we teach. I know, and that is why your cubs were broken in the first place. His voice was gentle but firm. You cannot beat love into a child. You cannot punish trust into existence. You cannot threaten someone into believing they have worth. These things must be given freely. Was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was softer than had ever heard it. I had cubs once, 3 of them my offspring. He looked at his hands, all 4 of them folded together. They were taken for military training when they were young, standard procedure. I did not protest because this is our way. Listened without interrupting. 2 of them died in training accidents. The 3rd survived but became cold, empty. He serves on a ship somewhere in the outer systems. He does not speak to me. He does not speak to anyone. His voice cracked slightly. I used to wonder if something was wrong with him. Now I wonder if something was wrong with our training. Commander. I watched your cubs hug each other after the evaluation. I watched them cry with happiness. I watched them run to you like you were their mother, looked up at with wet eyes. My cubs never ran to me, not once. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of the station systems. What do you want from me, Commander? Asked gently. Straightened his back, composing himself. The Empire wants to expand your program. They want you to train more cubs at other facilities. They see the results and they want to replicate them. His heart jumped. That is wonderful news. There is a condition. His expression hardened slightly. They want to study your methods and adapt them, make them more efficient, more. That would destroy what makes them work, said immediately. You cannot take the love out of love and expect the same results. I know, that is why I came here personally. Stood up and walked to the window again. I am retiring from military command. I have served the Empire long enough. Now I want to serve our cubs. What do you mean? Turned to face her. I want to work with you, human, not as a commander, as a student. I want to learn what you know. I want to help spread your methods without letting the Empire twist them into something unrecognizable. Stood as well, you would give up your rank, your power. Power means nothing if my people continue to break their own children. Walked closer to her. I am old. I have done terrible things in service to the Empire. I cannot undo those things, but perhaps I can do something better with the time I have left. He extended one of his 4 hands toward her, a gesture of alliance, of partnership. Will you teach me? He asked. Will you help me save our cubs? Looked at his hand, then at his face. She saw something there that she had never expected to see in a commander. Hope, vulnerability, the willingness to change. She took his hand. Yes, Commander, I will teach you. That evening brought Commander to meet the cubs. They were nervous at first. This was the terrifying figure who had threatened them at the inspection, but had prepared them. Commander wants to learn from you, she told them. He wants to understand how you became so strong. The cubs exchanged uncertain looks. Then Vel stepped forward. The smallest cub walked up to the massive commander and looked up at him without fear. Do you know how to hug? Vel asked. Looked confused. Hug. It is how humans show they care, Vel explained. Taught us. You hold someone close to tell them they are safe. You want to learn our strength, start with learning to hug. Looked at, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly, awkwardly, the old commander bent down. He spread 2 of his arms and waited. Vel stepped into the embrace. Then Roka. Then all 12 cubs surrounded the commander, wrapping their small arms around him. Froze, his body was rigid with shock. Then very slowly his arms closed around the cubs. He held them gently, like he was afraid he might break them. When they finally separated, there were tears on his face. He did not try to hide them. What is this feeling? He asked, his voice rough. Roka smiled up at him. That is love, Commander. It means you are not alone anymore. Watched the scene with tears of her own. 6 months ago, 12 broken cubs had arrived at her station. Now they were teaching a commander how to love. This was what humans could offer the universe. Not weapons or technology, not conquest or power, something much more valuable. The ability to heal, the courage to love, the strength to change. The cubs used to cry during training. Now they smiled when their trainer called their names. And maybe, just maybe, that smile would spread across the stars. One heart at a time.